Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm making a Canada Goose as a Christmas gift for Renée. In 2023, I made this woodpecker for Renée as a Christmas gift. I really enjoyed making it. Last Christmas, I wanted to make another one. This time, it will be a Canada Goose in flight. So I went back on the internet to where I bought the woodpecker model and did a search. I immediately found what I was looking for and bought it. However, I have to modify it a little for my needs. I started by importing it into Blender. I changed the origin to the center of the bird and move it horizontally to the center of the world. Here, it doesn't show, but the beak, the eyes, and the wings are different models from the rest of the body. I have to make an envelope around all these parts. To do this, I add a remesh modifier with a size of 0.01 meter. Now the model is made of only one part. But there are way too many faces for what I want to do. So I add a decimate modifier. Here you can see that the model has almost 500,000 faces. If I change the ratio, I downsize it to just over 100,000. Now, all I have to do is to export this model into the STL format. The second program I use is 3D Builder from Microsoft. After importing the model that I've already modified, it says that there are errors. To fix this, it's as simple as clicking on the bottom right. In a few seconds, it's corrected and I can cut the bird into several pieces. Cutting a model is not very difficult, but it's not very fast. After choosing the option to split, I move the plane just a little further than the feather transition on the neck and cut the model in half. To save the head, I erase the body and save it. Then I undo what I just did and delete the head. I repeat the same operations for both wings. My goal here is to cut the wings as close as possible to the body. It's still quite easy. If the plane intersects the body, the green plane changes color. Then it's just like I did for the head. I cut, erase the body, save the wing, recover the body, erase the wing, and start again to cut the other wing. I also have to do the same thing again to save both legs and feet individually. Then I'm ready for the other step, which is to open a spire. In there, I create a rotating workspace the size of the goose's body and import the model of the body that I saved when I cut everything into pieces. I don't have to change anything. I simply import the model. The first thing I do is put a height at the 0 plane to have a rotating axis. I have to change the combination mode of the body to combine to keep the original size of the bird. For the toolpaths, I draw two rectangles around the model, one smaller than the other. But I'm still missing something before calculating the toolpaths. I would like to make sure that the piece of wood I'm going to use is as round as possible. So I open the gadget menu and create a spiral. Here I'm saying that I want a line that will have a space of 5 mm between each turn. I want to start and finish 5 mm from the edges. Next, I create this line. Then I select it and copy it to the right side. To be able to cut the part at the top of the intersection, I have to ungroup the lines. Then I can cut the top. Now I'm ready to create the toolpaths. I select my lines and change the tool for a 6 mm end mill. Here, there's no point in doing a simulation because nothing will be cut on a cylinder. Next, comes the roughing pass. I select the largest of the rectangles and calculate the roughing pass with the same 6mm end mill. This is what the roughing pass will look like. Now comes the finishing pass. It's made with a conical bit of 1mm in diameter. This is what the bird's body will look like. I always find it exciting to see that. But I need more than just the body. So I need to create another sheet for the head. Since the head is much smaller than the body, I change the size of this sheet and I'm ready to import the head model. Just like for the body, I don't have to do anything in the import module other than press OK. But for the head, I will use another technique. Instead of putting a zero plane, I add 3D tabs. I enlarge it so that it makes the entire circumference of the cylinder. If I activate the three-dimensional view, we can see better. I find that it's a little too much on the beak, so I move the cylinder to where I think it will be the best location. Then I make a copy, which I move to the other side. As the sizes are perfect, I use the tool to make a spiral. But this time the spacing between the lines will be 1/10 of a millimeter, or 10% of the width of the bit that I will use. But the line is created on the left side, and I want it to be on the right. So I move it to the right. Now with the line already selected, I can create the toolpath. This time I select the profile toolpath. I make sure that the bit is indeed 1mm in diameter, and I stipulate that I want to apply the shape of the model to the profile, and that's it. Here's a simulation of the sculpting of the head. It's hard to see here, but it will be sculpted in a big spiral motion. You will see that pretty soon. Here's the head. With each new piece, the bird takes form. There are still 2 legs to do with this technique. So I need to create another sheet, and again, it will be even smaller than the head. But when I import them, I can see that they are not oriented in the right direction. So I have to change some orientation parameters before I import one of them. All the operations that follow are identical to the one I did for the head. Here's a preview of what the leg and foot will look like. But the wings are missing. For them, I have to open another file in Aspire. Yes, because we cannot mix rotary jobs with other types of jobs. The 2 wings will be carved double-sided. I start by changing the size of my workspace to accommodate the wings. I also stipulate that the Z0 position will be on the same surface. Like for the other models, I start by importing the model of a wing. But this one is far from being in the center, so I select to move it to the center of my piece of wood. I also have to turn the model so that it enters in my piece of wood and recenter it. Then I have to go and position the model. Here I have to make sure that the model will be cut in the center. I put an overcut distance and I can now import it. As you will see, double-sided sculpture is much easier to do than a rotary one. I have to add tabs to hold the wing in place during cutting. It's not very difficult. I just have to put them in strategic locations. I put 8 on each wing. To know where to make the toolpaths, I need the contour of the wing. I do that right away. As the wing will have to be carved on both sides, I also add circles directly in the center. They will serve as alignment when it will come time to sculpt the second side. The tabs are currently just on the top side. I have to select all of them and make a copy on the other side. Now I'm ready to do the toolpaths. The first one will be the alignment holes. But after having selected them, the program opens the tab for the position of the cut in the piece of wood. For the wings, I must stipulate that there will be as much material to remove on both sides. These holes will be made with the same bit as the roughing pass, a 6mm end mill. They will be deep enough to pass through the piece of wood and also to make holes in the table. Then comes the roughing pass. As the 6mm end mill was already selected, there's not much to do, other than do the calculation. This is what the roughing pass will look like. The finishing pass is also easy to do. The only thing I change here is to set the raster angle to minus 90 degrees to have a vertical cut that starts on the left. Here's a preview of the top face of the left wing. Now I have to repeat all the same operations on the other side of the wing to have another toolpath file. Here's what the piece of wood will look like after having been cut on both sides. I also have to repeat the same operations for the right wing. Finally, I can go into the workshop to make this goose. I decide to use the piece of basswood that Peter gave me when I went to cut cherry planks near his house. I realize quite quickly that trying to lower this log this way will end up in disaster. So I change tactics and use a rope. It works much better and is much safer. The log has a nice crack, which is the ideal place to cut it in half. I remove wood from the thin side. In addition to giving me straight sides, it reduces the width of the log, which is perfect for passing it on the jointer. After a little while, I have 2 halves of a log. I mark the center of the smallest one. Using these marks, I can find the place where I need to cut. Then I make sure that the cuts are straight. I have 3 straight sides. I have to take care of this one now. I finally have a square block of the right size. I need to cut it to the right length. I need to find the center to draw a circle, but before cutting the corners, I have to make a tenon at the end of this piece of wood. I adjust the height of the blade and the guide, and off I go to cut a tenon. Now that the tenon is cut, I need to get rid of the 4 corners. When it's done, I put it on the chuck of my rotary axis. The other side is held in place with this tailstock. I make sure the top part is level because I'm going to make my adjustments at the end of the block. Next, I put the end mill and adjust its 0 at the end of my mark. Then, it's a go. It starts by cutting the corners along the entire length. It doesn't have to be really round. I just want to remove the point so it doesn't stick out too much. Then the roughing pass begins. It's quite long, 2.5 hours to remove most of the wood. When it's finished, it looks like this. Luckily, there's a finishing pass afterward, because that really doesn't look like a little chicken on a spit. The finishing pass is quite quick. Here's the result 4.5 hours later. It's really exciting to see that, but there's a little work to do to make it look better. Here is the first piece after its first cleaning with a brass brush. It really is exciting. But there are other pieces to be made. For the head, I cut another small piece of basswood. You remember that I said that the head will be sculpted with a long spiral. Well, here's how it's sculpted. The whole thing took 2 hours and 15 minutes. This is a new technique for me. I really like it. I'm going to do this again for sure. But there are still 2 legs and feet to go. As they are much smaller pieces, it only takes about half an hour each to arrive at the final product. But there are still 2 wings to make, so I prepare more basswood. When I have 2 pieces, I screw one on my table. I align the X and Y axis in the center, change the bit to an end mill, and off we go for the roughing pass. When it's finished, I put the 1mm conical bit back on, and off we go for the finishing pass. This pass takes 1 hour and 40 minutes. Next, it's time for the other side. Here, I make a monumental mistake. I turn the piece of wood on the long side rather than the short side. But I didn't realize my mistake right away. I had a good part of the roughing done when I noticed it. it was really too late. I have to start all over again with the piece that I thought I would use for the right wing. This piece of wood is now only good for the wood stove. But before I burn it, I use it to measure what I have to cut for the new piece of the right wing. At least, while I was dealing with that, the CNC did the roughing pass. It's the finishing turn now. There's still another side left to sculpt. Here's the first wing finished. Unbelievable. This piece is going to be right here later on. But I still have to sculpt the right wing. Okay, now I have all the pieces to assemble the goose. I start by cutting off the end that holds the head. With a chisel, I remove a little bit of wood. I finish it with sandpaper. I'm quite happy with this. It's now time for the head. It's going to go here, just like that. It's just a little too small, but I will fix that later. I still have to cut the legs and feet. But it's not over yet. There are also the wings to free from their pieces of wood. The wings are quite fragile, and one wingtip breaks. I glue it back together with instant glue. But I'm far from being finished with the wings because I have to get rid of all the tabs I used. To sculpt the first one, I use a knife. There are still quite a few left to cut, and it's not easy to hold the wing while removing them. But for all the rest of the sculptures, I use gouges. It was much easier. To make the part of the wing that will be glued to the body straight, I pass it again on the sandpaper. The right wing will be placed like this. It's perfect. I'm happy. Now I have to do the same thing for the left one. But for this one, I have a surprise. It doesn't have the right angle. It's much easier to see it here with this angle. To find the right angle this time, I use the sander. Now I'm satisfied with the angle. All that's left to do is to glue all the pieces in place. After spreading the glue on the wing, I rub it in place on the body before holding it so I can spray the accelerator. I do the same steps for the head and both legs. But I'm not finished. There are still places to carve by hand. This time I use rasps and gouges. I find cracks at the glue joint here and there. I use instant glue to fill them. Then, with gouges, I make the joints disappear. Now I have to redo the entire tip of the beak. Before dealing with the tail, I take the opportunity, given that it's still in the vise, to pass a brass brush all over the sculpture. I have to change the brushes often, because like this, it doesn't clean very much. But the sculpture is not finished. Now it's time to take care of the tail. I start by sculpting as much as I can before cutting it. When I'm finished, I use a brass brush. I haven't had too many incidents so far. Luckily, I haven't dropped the sculpture on the ground. Finally finished. Now I have to find the center of gravity on the back. I do this using some tape and a string. All that's left to do is to screw a small eye screw in place, and the Canada Goose is ready to give to Renée for Christmas. So I wrap it in the workshop to make sure she doesn't see it. Here's what she said when she opened it at Christmas last year.
Wow!
But it's not finished yet, because she has to paint it. But unfortunately, you won't see this. We spent too much time at the cottage this year improving it. And also, I made hundreds of new Christmas ornaments that she had to paint for the Christmas fair season that just ended. I can only imagine that she will have, maybe, more time in 2026 to paint it. As for us, we will see each other next year for another episode of The Woodpecker.